The Ford Fiesta Mark III was the third generation of the Ford Fiesta Supermini built by Ford Europe. Originally introduced in 1989, the Mark III represented the biggest change to the Fiesta since the original car was introduced in 1976. In addition to the three-door hatchback and panel van versions that had formed the Fiesta model range, a five-door hatchback was also added. The Fiesta Mark III was replaced by the Fiesta Mark IV in 1995, but remained on sale until 1997. The Mark IV was a major restyle of the Mark III, but had the same chassis. The Fiesta Mark III also spawned a high-cube panel van version in 1991, the Courier, and also shared its platform with the KA of 1996, which was derived from the Fiesta Mark IV. The third-generation Fiesta, codenamed BE13, was unveiled at the end of 1988 and officially went on sale in the February of the following year. The car was based on a new platform, scrapping the old car's rear beam axle for a semi-independent torsion beam, addressing the principal weakness of the previous generation, the lack of a five-door derivative. Something that was by then available in its major rivals such as the Fiat Uno, Peugeot 205 and Vauxhall Nova. The other main change was to the running gear, the improved HCS, high-compression swirl, version of the Kent, Valencia power plant. The CVH units from the second generation were carried over largely unmodified. The LT diesel engine was enlarged to a 1.8 litres capacity. In the British market, fuel-injected engines only became available in 1991. They had been sold in countries with more stringent emissions controls since the introduction. In 1992 a number of prototype vehicles were produced by Ford fitted with direct injection two-stroke engines produced by the Orbital Engine Corporation of Australia, with full-scale production anticipated by Ford in 2 to 3 years' time. The cars were tested extensively in the UK, but ultimately it was decided not to go ahead with production versions. Major changes were introduced to the range in 1993, major structural improvements were made to improve safety, as well as a new immobilizer being fitted to petrol cars. Revised door mirrors were also fitted, as were a lineup of fresh wheel trim styles. As for sports models, the XR2i was launched in 1989 with an 8-valve CVH engine with 104 PS. This was then replaced by a Zetec 16-valve version in 1992, which also saw the RS Turbo being supplanted by the RS 1800 as the CVH engine was being phased out. The RS 1800 shared its engine with the 130 bhp version Escort XR3i. The XR2i name was dropped in early 1994, and the insurance-friendly SI badge appeared in its place on a slightly less sporty-looking model with either the 1.4 litres CVH PTE, a development of the CVH, or the 1.6 litres Zetec engine. From 1995 the vehicle was built and sold at the same time as the new Mark IV. To distinguish the car, trim levels were revised, and it was marketed as the Fiesta Classic. This version continued until production finally ceased in 1997. The Fiesta RS Turbo was a performance model of the Fiesta Mark III. It was introduced in April 1990 and production continued until 1992. Based on the XR2i, introduced a year earlier, it was visually similar. The main differences were 14 inches alloy wheels, an inch larger and of a different design than those fitted to the XR2i, with 185/55 VR14 P600 tires, green rather than blue stripe moldings, color-coded rear spoiler and door pillars, opening rear quarter windows, green tinted glass and RS bonnet louvers. Anti-lock brakes and a quick clear heated front windscreen were options at extra cost. Inside the car the differences included Recaro seats trimmed in Ascot Raven material and a grey leather trimmed gear knob and a 3-spoke steering wheel, as opposed to the 2-spoke used in the XR2i, which also had the RS Turbo logo embossed on the center cap. The RS Turbo's CVH engine retained the same 1597cc capacity as the XR2i, but had a lower compression ratio of 8:1. The Garrett T2 turbocharger supplied 8 pounds per square inch of boost and was chosen as space between the engine and radiator prevented the use of the larger T3 from the Escort RS Turbo. As with the Escort, an air-to-air intercooler was fitted, although this was slightly larger on the Fiesta. The quoted power output was 133 PS at 5,500 revolutions per minute, which gave the car a top speed of 133 miles per hour and a 0-60 of 7.9 seconds. The car was not generally well received, with reviews citing poor handling and uncommunicative steering as its weak points. The spiraling insurance costs of the early 1990s did not help either, with the car being a particular target for thieves. The Fiesta RS 1800 was introduced as the replacement for the RS Turbo in 1992. The turbocharged 1.6-litre CVH engine from the RS Turbo was replaced by a 1.8-litre version of the Zetec engine, and had a similar claimed maximum power output of 130 bhp.